All these clones, we the original.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
The tourists come over to chill on the beach, but they don't come over the hill where we sleep. We got nightmares and they got fantasies. No sanity, it's just insanity. My mommy hoping nothing happens to me.
On my points. All right, so I sound good?
Yeah, we 15 and
Okay. So how do I start? I know he's probably witnessed a few of these, but first time on air. But before we get into that, what it is Lord Jalen Willett, the Negus of Nassau, St. Anton Alexander, and we coming to you with another episode of Erryting Kool, the Outside on the Main Road edition.
Hey.
So, we wearing sunglasses and we trying to, keep the haters away and stop traffic at the same time.
Haters and trolls.
Haters and trolls. But I don't want to go in too much further without introducing the legendary man himself, Travolta Cooper. The funny thing is, when I say Travolta, people be like, the actor?
yeah.
Story of my life.
Well, welcome, Travolta, to Erryting Kool. Travolta. Thank you.
Very happy to be here. Big fan of Justin's in this show, so
yeah.
I'm very happy to be here.
But yeah, me and him have known each other. It's been almost going on 2 years.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lifetime. I always tell people, when he's one of the few people I get together with, we can have 5-hour conversations and you get lost track of time. So I was like,
Very smart guy.
yeah.
Y'all should be listening.
So, but before we get any further, we always start off every show with the Bahamian word, phrase, or saying of the day. So we always give that honor to, the honorary guests. So give it to us.
The Bahamian word of the day?
Yeah.
Word or phrase.
Word or phrase or saying. Yeah, it don't have to just be one thing.
It's funny because we was on set the other day and everyone was going on about the name Boysel.
Boysel? Oh, yeah, we're from Leo.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Boysel.
It's like how, there's not a... Is there a more Bahamian name than Boysel?
Boysel.
And then the way you have to say it, Boysel. So anyway, so that was a weekend when we had, but the phrase that comes to mind right now is boy.
Boy.
Is that unoriginal?
No, actually, I don't think we had boy yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so so the word is boy. So
Yeah.
what does that mean and how do you spell it? Because that's often...
There's only one way to spell it.
Actually, that's debatable.
feel
I
the
think
same
it's
way.
B-E-Y.
Mhm.
Some says B-U-I, some say...
They could be wrong.
B-E-I. Some
Yeah.
people be like
Yeah.
B-O-U-Y. I'm like, boy is B-E-Y.
Right.
Everyone has their own interpretation of it,
Yeah.
but I think it's B-E-Y. Yeah.
That's what looked the best to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Just how it lays out.
Yeah.
But cool. So we about to get in deep into, Travolta has been... Would you say you were a legendary filmmaker? Because I feel like, because you've been doing this so long.
You're trying to get me in trouble.
No, because it's you've been doing this forever. Okay, he might not look that old. But I'm going to leave that right there. So, Travolta's worked on a number of projects, including the now airing TV show Where in the World is Wally, which
Big project.
Big project, which I'm a part of the project as well. I've been working on since
Yes, he is.
early 2019. So, Where in the World is Wally is the latest of Travolta's projects, but he has a number of other projects coming as well as past, and one of them includes the film Black Moses, which is debuting on our TV next month.
Yeah, Independence Month.
Okay.
Big deal, yeah. You know, I mean, Black Moses has been out since we released it theatrically in 2014. And then it sort of had we were working out this TV deal for a while. It's been on DVD, and it's been doing very well on DVD. And we've been debating this TV deal for a while. That sort of went nowhere.
Okay.
And then 2020 happened, and the whole world shut down. And I thought to myself,
Yeah.
these are interesting times. I feel like we should give Bahamians free access to the film.
Yeah.
Because these kinds of times usually incite protests
And revolution.
change. And revolution, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really what inspired it.
Interesting. Was I rewatched the film during, like, as soon as the whole pandemic started, I sort of rewatched it, and it was intriguing how it's somewhat correlated to these times, to where it's like, you know, a lot of people here in the Bahamas have a lot of questions on how and why we do things we do it, as well as, you know, of course, we have so many unemployed people, and they be like, why we don't do away with always pumping 100% into tourism? But, you know, you watch this film, you would understand the whole systematic approach behind it. So, like, you know, I've been saying multiple times across different podcasts and platforms, that's a film that you want to check out. You know, you want to understand why Bay Street it is the way it is, and why... Hold on, let's wait for this truck to pass. All right. We live on the street for real. We ain't playing. These ain't no sound effects.
We out here.
But
We really out here.
you want to understand why, okay, no Bahamian really owns any access to any ports or own any real estate close to the shore. You want to understand why, you know, we put so much emphasis on tourism. You wonder why, okay, certain industries didn't take place, or what happened to the art industry early on after the 60s. Like, a lot of those questions are answered inside of this documentary.
And those were genuine questions. I mean, like, that was... So a little bit about me. I was in America since I was 16. I'm a kid who grew up in Bimini. Bimini, you know, Northwest Bahamas, Abaco, Bimini, and Abaco, Freeport, Bimini.
Yeah.
And I spent a significant amount of time outside the country. The defining years of my life were really in America, which is probably why I sound half Bahamian, half American sometimes.
I mean, I think I sound like that too, but, like, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
You know.
But when I came home in 2008, 2009, that was a central question for me. A central question was, who are we as a people? How did we arrive in this current space at that time that we were in? And I knew the answer to that. The answer to that was, do your research. Like, history is going to give you the answer. His story. And, you know, that inspired a few little documentary projects that I did before Black Moses. Black Moses was obviously the biggest one.
Yeah.
But that was my own personal sort of 2-3 year exploration. I knew the person to help give me those answers was first and foremost going to be Sir Lyndon Pinling. He's sort of the central figure in Bahamian history.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer, you know, a Bahamian doing a movie on Lyndon Pinling is... I've gotten like 4 or 5 different scripts since we released Black Moses of other Bahamian screenwriters that want to do a movie on Sir Lyndon Pinling, others that want to do documentaries on him, you know, and there can be several because...
Yeah. There's so many different things.
I mean, dude was in power for like 25 years, you know, and he ushered us into independence. So that story is really, in lots of ways, the holy grail of what it means to be Bahamian. And so I was curious to discover that for myself, and then it became this big movie. So all of you got to discover it with me, you know, that journey really. But yeah.
So what do you think about, you know, because I see this as a very conscious film or whatever, and I'm into a lot of Black conscious things.
Yeah.
So where it's like, you know, understanding how my place in the world
Yeah.
as a melanated person, and understanding, why we as Bahamians, it feels like we don't like independence was significant, but it's becoming more insignificant as the years go by. Because you're starting to realize we don't really own nothing or whatever. Like, and the way how you tell stories, was that inspired into you by who you grew up around as a child, or that came more so from experiencing the world and seeing the world from a bigger view, and then you coming back and seeing so many different things wrong?
All of the above. Yeah,
Okay.
Good question. Well, I mentioned my Northwest upbringing, my Northwest Bahamas upbringing. And my mother's family, so my parents, Hannah Cooper, they split. She went back to Bimini once they divorced, raised us in Bimini. He went back home to Abaco, Cooperstown, Abaco, where he's from.
Okay.
So we sort of lived in between the two islands in lots of ways. But Bimini was this PLP stronghold, right? So when I was growing up in the 80s, Lyndon Pinling was a god.
Interesting.
Like, he was an absolute god. He was a hero. But when I would visit my family in Cooperstown, Abaco, he was a devil. That was an FNM territory. That was an FNM sort of UBP stronghold. And so that always informed my childhood, just sort of the mythology of this man, why is he seen as good on one end and why is he seen as evil on the other end? And when I went away, when I left the country, it broadened my, as it does most Bahamians when we go off to school, it broadens our viewpoint. We're able to compare and contrast. So by the time I came back home, and I was sort of in this culture shock of having to figure out what is Bahamian, having to figure out this place, having to figure out the space. I recognize the accents. I recognize the food. I recognize all the things that we deem as Bahamians, but I couldn't put my finger on what is Bahamian. Like, it's easy when you go to Jamaica or Trinidad. Like, their culture is just everywhere. Like, you can feel it in the air, But when I came home, it was like, in fact, I remember that summer, like Lil Wayne was big that summer.
Summer Wait. I said, Carter 3 came out. Wow.
The Lollipop song.
Yeah, the
remember
Carter
that?
3 was out. Yeah, that was fire. Like,
And I was just like,
That's crazy.
but this is what I was listening to in LA. Like, so in my head, it was like,
it was like
what
you
is
never left.
Bahamian culture? Like, it's like we seem to adapted all these other cultures, Jamaica,
Trinidad,
America,
Haitian culture,
and I couldn't figure out who we were, and so that's been a journey since then, and in lots of ways, it's still a journey.
So you feel like, because I always from watching Black Moses and doing my own research, do you feel like we ever had a cultural identity?
Ooh.
Because if you
You trying to set me up?
no, but it's like, I said that because
These are the questions people want to know.
Yeah, because it's like, if you look back at it and understand how we came and why we do certain things, is all to be more appealing to tourists, to essentially to a certain amount of degree.
I think there were opportunities in Bahamian history for a cultural identity. I think that's clearly the case when you read Sir Sidney Poitier's book, his biography in the early 80s, where he talks about his time in the Bahamas and what drove him out of the Bahamas, which is another short film that I'm putting together.
Yep.
Quick
It's
plug.
clear when you read the works of, and I think there was a documentary done on it too, on what's Homeboy's name again? Edmund Moxie.
Okay, yeah.
June Bay Village.
Oh, yeah, June Bay Village. The legendary June Bay Village.
When you read about the story of Joseph Spence, and when you read about the story of Amos Ferguson, you realize that we've had multiple opportunities, just as Jamaica and just as Trinidad has, to fuel our culture and cultivate our culture. And culture and cultivate come from the same word. It means you have to fuel it, and I think specifically what happened during the Pinling years was that the country became more about the politics and less about the culture. So our politicians, and even to this day, our politicians are rock stars. Right?
Yeah.
They're absolute celebrities.
Yeah.
But the culture architects are sort of in the background, and the politics are in the foreground. And I think that's in lots of ways one of the negative aspects of the legacy of Sir Lyndon Pinling.
Right. So piggybacking off of that, during your research and your experience documenting the film, what would you say is your interpretation of Bahamian independence?
Bahamian
independence.
That's a good question.
So Arlington Butler, you all know who he is? So he was interviewed.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He was in the film for a short time, but he said, I asked him the same question. And I'll tell you what his response was. His response was, all we got on independence was
a flag,
right.
and a passport.
Yeah.
He says this with his British vernacular.
Yeah, and a lunch pail from the Queen.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it really was, because it's what exactly happened.
Yeah, we've not done the best job of. I mean, I can give Sir Lyndon tons of credit, and every leader is going to be criticized on their good and bad. I read some of the comments today on Menace on social media.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's good, sometimes he's the devil from hell, right?
Yeah.
So that's just the weight of leadership. Sir Lyndon, that era didn't do a great job on cultivating Bahamian culture and Bahamian independence. From what I'm told, because I didn't know him, I'm told in the end, he really lamented that they didn't do enough for true independence, which is economic independence.
Yeah.
Independence is when you own your stuff.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
So when Bahamians own this country, or when Kenyans own Kenya, or when Nigerians own Nigeria, et cetera, this wasn't a phenomenon that was used to. This wasn't a phenomenon that was unique to the Bahamas.
Yeah,
this was happening globally around the world as it relates to these post-colonial, specifically black countries. Somebody wrote the script and was like, y'all Negroes ain't gonna own nothing.
Right. And then piggybacking off of that as well, it was interesting that he is painted as the freedom fighter, the independence warrior.
Right.
But essentially, he didn't want true independence. He simply wanted a self-governance. We could handle our situation, but within the purview of the Commonwealth or the Queen.
Egos, man. I mean, and ironically, that's the story of Moses, right? Moses was a powerful, powerful figure in ancient history. And when you adapt that to today, you're basically dealing with this huge ego, this huge power, who in the words of Miles Monroe, he begins to believe his own fan mail.
Right.
And I think Sir Lyndon, in lots of ways, fell prey to that. I think around the late 70s, it became clear that this movement was about one man. And it was all about holding on to the reins of power.
Right.
And again, that's not unique to Sir Lyndon. That's Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya. That's all of them. The worst we've seen would have been in Idi Amin in Uganda, where they actually end up killing their own people. But Sigmund Freud actually wrote a story about Moses, and his viewpoint of Moses was that Moses' whole goal was to get the people to the wilderness so he could rule them.
Right.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Moses' whole goal was to get the people to the wilderness.
Moses' psychoanalysis, according to Sigmund Freud, was that his thing was to get the people to the wilderness so he could rule them. It was never really about delivering the people. It was about delivering them to himself.
So he developed a God complex along the way. Right.
Correct.
With
I mean, I could see
bestowed
that.
to him from God.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Interesting.
Because I can see that, because in the story of Moses, he often gets frustrated with the people.
he gets frustrated, and apparently he frustrated God, which is why he never led them to the promised land.
Yeah. But that's just having power for too long.
Right.
Like, you know, because you somewhat get blinded in your own ambitions.
Right.
And what you see fit.
And when we read the story, we realize that, you know, Moses walked before the people. They followed him, right?
Right.
But when they were going to the promised land, Joshua walked behind the people.
Yeah.
So you're looking... So on one end, you have a bit of a dictator. And on the other end, you have a bit of a coach.
Yeah, more of a shepherd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not even a shepherd, like a... It's that word shepherd messes me up. But like a coach. Like the coach is always in the background...
Pushing the
promoting the team.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like you rarely see a coach that's a big celebrity. The coach becomes a celebrity if the team is a celebrity. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's how you flip the narrative on power, really.
Right. And then I also want to touch on the Black Moses title because, you know, Moses is depicted widely as we know as a black man already. So then
I got on.
Yeah, that was
before.
just like
No, because one day when I watched it the first time, and you know, I watched it and I was like, you know, Moses was already black. Right?
Yeah.
That's been. You should read the comments on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's been a big thing. Like, in fact, when we first announced the title back in 2012 or something, a lot of the comments were, "But isn't Moses already black?"
Right.
Yeah.
And
if you could, the mic. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You good.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a tall order. That's I mean, you know, I'm traveling all over the world. I'm in Israel. I'm in Europe. I'm everywhere. Where this man is, I mean, he's all things to all men, right? He's Arab to the Arabs. He's white to the white Jews. He's black to the... So my thing was never about... I mean, the movie is obviously about race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there is a legitimate argument that Moses was black.
Right.
But when you see the film and you see the way it's filmed and you see the style of it, hopefully you see this. You see that when we talk about the Black Moses, we were mostly interested in something we call film noir, which is a style of filmmaking. It's shadows and it's just like you see the film how, you know, Moses is being interviewed in a way because you're trying to figure out if this person is good or evil. Those are classic tropes of something we call film noir. It's a genre.
Right.
And yeah, I know it's a documentary, but I like to mix it up. I like to do cool things. So my thing was I want to do a documentary and I wanted to be film noir and I wanted to be about Sir Lyndon.
Right. And you just tied everything together.
Exactly.
So the title is almost a foreshadowing of the project.
The title points more to the style of the film less than it does to his race. It's about like The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You know, that's a film noir. Those are movies about moral ambiguity, and sorry, the title more or less points to the theme and the style of the movie than it does whether he was black or white or Arab. And I don't know if I thought the title was going to be that.
Yeah,
because
polarizing.
It might have been something different because I didn't even think about it. I'm still in my own head as a filmmaker that you know, like you have a tunnel vision, but then you release it and it's like, oh, but Moses was black, and I'm like, well, we're not saying he wasn't.
Right.
It's about good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's like a black sheep.
Or the Black Dahlia, or I mean, if you just Google titles of film noir films, it's always like white or black, and that's not race. That's moral ambiguity. Yeah.
Okay. So so coming from off the heels of Black Moses, how was it initially received, and then how you feel this time now like we had time to be at home and view this project, how you feel like the reception has changed in a whole decade?
It's crazy. I mean, because like here we are doing an interview, and I have another one tomorrow
Yeah.
with more 94 or somebody. Sorry, I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
Right. Shout out whoever you are.
Sure, yeah.
And then I got another one on Saturday, and then I got another one next week.
Okay.
And these are people who contacted me. Like they saw the film, and they were like, "We need to talk about this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we released this in 2014. Like I've already done the press."
The press run, but it's
junket.
almost like it got a second win.
Right.
And that's a great question, though. I think it has a lot to do with, social media is so prevalent right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't as much in 2013. It was, it was present, but it wasn't like...
It was in its infancy because Instagram had just came out.
You know what I'm saying?
Twitter has only been out for 5 years or so.
Yeah. Like it's like people are literally watching movies on their phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas when Black Moses came out and we submitted it to Biff, and Biff was like, "This is awesome. We wanted to close the festival," which hadn't happened before. So that was the first time, and Biff is the Bahamas International Film Festival, by the way.
Yep.
And that was the first time in Biff's history where a Bahamian movie opened the festival and closed it.
Okay.
And so that was a pretty awesome accomplishment, right? And Dennis came down, and Danny Glover came down, and it was a big thing.
Dennis being the State Farm guy. What's his
Are
last
you
name?
in good hands?
Yeah.
Dennis Haysbert. Yeah. Interesting story how he got to be a part of the movie too. But yeah, that was a whole different time. Like if Black Moses were made today, it would be a different movie. I think I think it would be a docu-series.
Yeah,
Because
like it would be you could
get
go
what I'm
10
saying?
hours.
Because in 2013, we were fashioning the documentary for theatrical release. So it's shorter. I had to cut a lot of things, which was frustrating beyond belief. I know you guys saw it and you love it, but there's a lot more going on that I would have loved to have just...
That'd be pretty interesting for a re-release, though.
It would.
If you change the concept to a series, add in a whole lot of stuff that you left out.
It's something I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
I've just been busy with other things, as Justin knows.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to get into those after the break.
But yeah, I think I mostly want to encourage more Bahamian filmmakers to do this. I think Sir Lyndon has at least 5 more documentaries to be done on various aspects of, his life. I think, do you want me to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. See what I mean?
Yes, but we like the live on me.
Yeah, this ain't a joke, yo.
So we ain't faking for real.
Theo didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I can see why he would be frustrated with that.
oh my god. Yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more films, and I've been reading the comments on YouTube and everywhere else, and it's inspiring people to do more films and do more research.
Yeah.
And that's good because we need more content. We need, and I encourage you to do it fast because that generation is dying out. You know, like one person talked to me and they were like, "Should I stop?" Because I see you trying to go to break.
No.
No, one person talked to me. They were like, they'd like everyone in the Black Moses was like a
fossil or
Not just
a relic.
well, like distinguished, like the Andrew Youngs and the Sean McQueenies or whatever, like the stalwart counselors and the creme de la, the muckamucks, right? And they were like, "Man, I want to see a street documentary on Finland. I want to hear what the people got to say." And I'd love to see that. That wasn't going to be my movie at that time.
Yeah.
And I ain't making another Finland movie. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You already got too much.
I would love to see more done. Absolutely.
All right. But this conversation is getting very riveting. And we got so much more to say. But we're going to be right back after these messages.
Hey.
Hi, this is your favorite zaddy, Lord Jalen Willard from Erryting Kool, and this episode is sponsored by
Baha Wear is a costume brand where we want all of our customers to experience an impressive level of professionalism and trust us to supply the best products that you need. All of our Carnival, Jungle, and Samba costume services exist to make your celebration experience easier and stress-free. Currently, we are selling pillows and shirts in honor of the Bahamian Independence Day coming up on July 10th. Check us out at bahaware.com and follow us on social media at Bahaware on Instagram and Bahaware LLC on Facebook. And we're back, from break. We always have interesting breaks, but we about to, continue to dissect and go in on different things around the culture. And with that, I would like to ask Travolta the first question. What inspires you to make all your projects and focus on telling the Bahamian story? Make them Bahamian centric all the time.
I'm actually talking with a South African author right now about adapting their book into a movie in South Africa. So that's an ongoing conversation. But even in that, the thing that most incites me about the book is how sort of South African culture and Bahamian culture lead these sort of parallel lives. Like it's
Also,
yeah, like it's you could be walking down the street, somewhere in Johannesburg and see a bunch of kids, playing ring play. And those kids look just like we did in Bimini when I was growing up. Like they're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
It's clearly a different culture, and I think I told you this, it's like when the twins that were separated at birth grow up and they meet each other as adults and they look identical,
yeah.
but they're not identical at the same time.
Right.
I think Dr. Ian Strong did a film about that, like mid-2000s.
Right.
Where it was a ring play. You saw Bahamian little children doing the ring play, and then he went to St. Lucia.
Right.
And it was the same thing, but it's just like, they should she twists.
Right,
she twists,
right. Right,
So,
right. Yeah.
No, your phone.
Huh?
Your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but back to your question, I don't know. I think it just has a lot to do with, I am Bahamian. My parents are Bahamian. My grandparents are Bahamian. I was born and raised Bahamian. I think it just has something to do with cinema is this canvas that allows you to explore truth, right? And I think a central question in my work is, what is Bahamian? So if that's going to be a film in South Africa that parallels Bahamian life, then it's sort of the same central question.
Yeah, because
If that's Black Moses, if that's Wally, because where in the world is Wally? Which you haven't asked me about yet, but I was telling somebody the other day.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody else the other day, like, where in the world is Wally? Is also about where in the world is the Bahamas? Where in the world is the Bahamian? Where in the world is the Bahamian dream? Where in the world is Wally? Is that search for all things Bahamian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to piggyback off that, and because I be in the cut room, Wally is like in a subliminal kind of way, wherever Wally goes. Well, he's the Bahamian there, but sometimes he meets other Bahamians in cities that's not.
Or even if it's characters in other cities that are even if they're playing foreign characters, they're actually Bahamian actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like for instance, when Wally appears in New York, and you have Jay Fari and what's his name?
Jonathan.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
So they pop up, or whatever other locations. Because I have a lot of Bahamian friends that are actors in different spaces, and they'll be reaching out to me like, "Oh, I tried to get on Wally like da da da." I'm like, "Yeah, I know Travolta." This and that, asking when is another casting gonna happen or whatever. So, you know, it can happen. Like you go wherever. Like Bahamians are worldwide. It's just that we don't know. So you know,
and that's just it. Whether it's Jonathan in New York or Oral Ellis in L.A., you know, who was in Blackish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are Bahamians that didn't necessarily find they couldn't get the opportunities here.
Yeah.
So they went away.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would have been interesting to take the opportunities to Bahamians away and somehow glue Bahamians in this global space.
Yeah.
Who would have otherwise been here had the opportunities been here.
Yeah. And I always try to emphasize that with all my platforms is trying to connect it all back together. Because it's like, okay, like one of my friends, like Devon Rogers, he's an actor in Orlando. Or like my other friend, Kristen, she's an actor in Atlanta. And my other friend of mine is Ashley.
Right.
She's been, I forget what series
Shout out to Ashley.
TV One. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's your cousin. I forget about that. So like she's a main actress on TV One right now. So it's like, but we wouldn't know that if we don't go searching and someone tell us these things.
We ain't affiliated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like,
and that's sort of one of the themes of the production. Like,
I ain't getting my sound from you, bro. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's sort of one of the themes of the production, and I decided that early on. Because it was originally going to be a smaller project, but once it became bigger, it was clear to me that we were going to work with Bahamians in all the various cities that we were in, whether that was in America or even Europe, even in Amsterdam, where there was a Bahamian PA on set. Like he was actually a photographer who had lived there since the 90s.
oh wow.
Yeah, and this was as close to the Bahamas he'd come in like forever. Yeah, so it's like we're already this small little country.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how is it we have a diaspora? Diaspora is normally when you have like millions and millions and millions of people.
Right.
But I know just from Black Moses, just from our own history, is that we've historically, and it's still going on, we've historically had these brain drains where people didn't necessarily see the opportunities here, and so they left.
Yeah. And then they sort of assimilated to whatever culture.
Right.
So they basically, they vanished out of existence.
Right. And these are capable,
People.
wonderful, intelligent, leading the world Bahamians, you know.
Right.
These ain't some average. I know one dude who was actually trying to get this contract with when Bahama was being built, and they told him he was overqualified.
Right. That's a
Interesting.
common
That's a
label.
common-
I don't know what that label means.
How can I be overqualified in my own country?
How can I be overqualified, period?
Right.
What is that? Or whatever. That just means I know how to do the job very well.
And
Like,
so
you
what
know.
did he do? He went back to America.
So we have nation builders scattered across the
the world.
globe.
Like,
You
you know.
in ways you wouldn't believe.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. The alternate side of history would be also something wonderful to see, like a what if?
What if all of them came back? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, because I always have this dream of building a new Wakanda. And I think you need, quote unquote, the war dogs in these different places. But again, that connection need to be established. So, okay,
Right.
you over there, let's set up shop. I need to get whatever you got over there, and I can help you from home and front. And then we keep on going back and forth. Okay, your kids might probably want to ingratiate yourself more with the Bahamian history and things like that. You want to probably, if you have children over there, you will probably want them to spend some time in the Bahamas. You have family here. If I got kids and I need them to go on a more international level, I can send them to you.
Right.
And that's what different other groups do. That's what our cousins in Jamaica, they do that all the time.
Less.
Or whatever.
Yeah, it's more of burned bridges and a spider web.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of Bahamians don't even believe that we have history. Like,
Yeah.
the bulk of our history, from what I can remember, is slaves, like slave-centric, the
Yeah.
large proprietors, etc. So, I mean, people aren't really that interested because they don't believe nothing is there for them to strive towards. So if more Elo Pinland, more Randall Fox, more Milo Butler is taught, then I feel like we'd have more passion in being a Bahamian.
Yeah. And then this has happened not just in entertainment, in all levels, bro. Because it's like, shout out to my guys who runs the Player Tribute. Like, they have athletes who were ex-professionals, but they're hired by universities in Canada and the U.S.
Right.
Or whatever. But it's a constant brain trainer because it's like, we don't want to pay. We just want to focus on tourism.
Yeah, we
don't want to focus on
appreciated
nothing
at all.
else or whatever. Like, tourism and whatever the smaller remnants of offshore banking is or whatever.
And so Bahamian genius remains offshore.
Yeah.
Right.
And I say it again, Bahamian genius remains offshore. Dude, there are whole courses. I can't remember the name of the university in Canada, but there was a course taught on Joseph Spence.
Yeah, I seen it. Like the Joseph Spence technique or whatever. Like,
You ask the average Bahamian who Joseph Spence is.
don't know.
No.
But it's like a whole college course.
So when you ask me what is Bahamian culture, it's in some Canadian college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being taught to Canadians.
So, like, I think we just need to do a better job with that because it's like, and that's why going to Wally, I think Wally touches on something why Wally's unique. It touches on Bahamian folklore, which we don't really like to heavily acknowledge.
Right.
Or whatever. And that sort of gets into the culture a little bit too, because, okay, everybody can relate. Okay, if you bring up, you ever saw things, or have you ever got like these markings while you sleep, or seen some exorcism or something like that, you will see people, oh yeah, I remember this, and I remember that, and this person tried to call up this thing, or whatever, So, it's just, I think, accepting our culture, because for the longest time, I feel like Nassau has become a mini melting pot. However, because we have so many other cultures that not just we accept, but live here.
Right.
Whatever. Like, you have a large community of Indians where all of the India states have representatives here. Or whatever. You have the Filipino community. You have the Chinese community. Okay. You have the Chinese community. You have all the British community. You have all, like, wherever, any nationality you want to find, you can find it now.
Right.
I remember I met someone from Uganda who helps like build the different Wendy's and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who?
Not Uganda, Uruguay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think the only difference is we being consumed by the melting pot instead of being the stirrer. We
Instead of seasoning the pot, we in the pot.
Yeah, we supposed to be surveying the pot. Instead, we getting cooked.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the question of culture and cultural identity. If the culture was strong enough,
Right.
Yeah.
then
We'd
then
have
we're
the chef
stirring
hat
pot,
on.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, but the culture was already weak.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happens when you have just a little bit of lemonade and tons of water?
Yeah.
You can hardly taste the lemonade, right? Like
Yeah.
it's. I don't know if we have enough culture already to sustain an influx of culture, because what's going to happen is the little culture we already have gets distorted. And don't tell me Junkanoo is Bahamian culture.
Right.
It is, but it's not the be all end all.
Yeah.
Like, that is BS.
I think it's the last frontier because a lot of other things are slowly dying out.
Yeah.
Like,
and even Junkanoo's getting infiltrated.
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm
You
saying.
get what I'm saying? Like, so this thing, like, it's coming at us from all ends. It's coming at us from all sides.
But with that, so what I want to ask, right? Back to Wally. What inspired you to take the whole folklore and to bring to life certain tales of Bahamian life, not just with the spirituality aspect, like you will have what's that, episode 2? Episode 2 when they was in a police station.
Yeah.
Like, seeing
no,
the
that was
police
fun.
dynamic.
That was fun. Yeah.
Small things like that.
Yeah. Well, Wally was a tale that was told us. My grandmother was a folklorist. She told us stories. Growing up in Bimini, the current would go off, much like it is here in Nassau these days.
Right.
It's funny, it on in Bimini, but it ain't. But I used to look forward to when the current went off, because Mama would Mama Dell, as we call her. You know, she would light her little oil lantern and her candles and, you know, gather all the children and it's story time.
Right.
You know?
I was just about to say, tell stories.
And one of the, we know the common ones, the Bookie and the Barabbis, but
Live from the street side.
she told this story about Wally, who was this man who drank a lot. And one day he woke up somewhere else, somewhere else in the world. And it was essentially a cautionary tale about drinking, as all the folklores are. The folktales are always like, there's always some morale or some lesson to be learned, right? And that's not just Bahamian, that's universal.
Yeah.
It never hit my mind that it would be a series, though, or that it would be anything that I'd be interested in doing until, as you know, I'm doing a documentary on Miles Monroe.
Yep,
right?
and we're going to get
And
into that
so
next.
I was traveling all over the place like a madman. And one day we were in Swaziland, which is in the southern part of Africa. And Swaziland is a kingdom. We were there to talk to the king of Swaziland about Miles Monroe. Because Miles Monroe advised the king of Swaziland. Like, that's the kind of...
Power move. Yeah, right.
That's true.
What we don't appreciate is...
Actually, we don't know.
Well, Miles Monroe is Bahamian genius personified, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So I was in Swaziland. I was in my hotel. I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was tired from all the travel and just exhausted from, being jet lagged. And because that was like a national, African national tour. Like, we'd gone from South Africa to Namibia to Botswana to Swaziland. So I was exhausted, right? And I wake up in Swaziland, and for about 10 whole minutes, it was pitch dark in my hotel room. I didn't know where I was. Like, I physically, I don't know if you can call it amnesia or I don't know what the scientific...
I've heard about that.
Right.
Because I used to have professors to be like, when they're on a intense production schedules, they have to write down which city they're in. Wake up to be like, oh, I hear.
For 10 minutes, I had no idea where in the world I was. And those were literally the words that came out of my mouth, like, where in the world am I? And it was dark. And then I thought about the Wally tale. And I'm like, And so that was sort of the beginning. I started to... I didn't just see it as this childhood folklore tale. Now I saw it as... I could put a human spin on it. I could create a world with real full-blooded Bahamians from this experience I was having. And when Wally begins, he's literally in a foreign city. He doesn't know how he got there. and that was something I actually experienced. And so that was really the genesis of it. That mixed with, the fact that it was my grandmother's storytelling. And as you know, we pitched it to the Cannes Film Festival. And they thought it was brilliant because they saw it as I didn't see it as a spin on Where's Waldo or Where's Wally, but they did. So whatever works. We ended up getting the money, and that's sort of how it started.
And then, the cast of the whole show, included a lot of local talent. And not just the main cast, but even the guest appearances.
Yeah.
There's always someone, oh yeah, I know this person, or this person is this, or it's like, it's sort of star-studded, if you've never seen it or whatever, like, with the lead-in characters and Sawyer Boy, Renell,
And
Bodine.
yeah, and one of the things we keep getting back, I mean, of all the feedback we've been getting, the majority has been the acting's so good.
Yeah.
Like, the acting's so believable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what we've done before. The Bahamians can't believe what they're seeing on screen, but they're believing it now. They're like, they're actually believing these actors. and I don't know, that's amazing to me because, I don't know, like, it's...
I mean, maybe it's not Bahamians trying to be American, but telling a Bahamian story. Like, you ever seen that? Like, it's a lot of movies back in the day. You telling a Bahamian story, but you're trying to
American
speak
accent.
with American accent. But
Right.
you're trying to speak properly. It's like write the script in name, like so people could feel.
That and just also the trope of comedy. Like
Yeah.
for some reason, this memo went out in the Bahamian universe that
Make it funny.
Bahamians just want to be a clown and,
Yeah.
and joke all the time.
Right.
And that's all we see. So when you have a show where Bahamians are really crying and it's real tears and really acting, specifically somebody like Sawyer Boy, who's like
Yeah.
quickly
comedian.
becoming like a Sidney Poitier or a Cary Grant as the episodes go on, as you guys will see. It blows the mind that we can be real on screen. You know, like it's a completely, you're talking about an alternate universe earlier. It's
Yeah.
a completely alternate look at who we could be on screen.
Yeah, and then you didn't.
And I feel like I'm,
yeah, and then the
I feel like I'm plugging myself, but
Gotta plug yourself. They have
go
to.
ahead. I mean, you can talk what was
I would
factual.
listen. If
Like,
Justin had made Wally, I would be saying the same thing about
Right.
yeah,
it. If you
Right.
had made it, like it's not.
it
the
just
cre-
needs to be made.
The credit
Like,
really
you know,
goes
By
to this.
Bahamians.
Yeah, the credit really goes to this team that was put together. Jackson and his crew and these actors and David and what those guys are doing at Cable. Like it's a collaborative. It's not just Travolta Cooper. It's this wonderful team that came together to do something wonderful.
Yeah, like and I just was always happy to become a part of the project. Like even when I saw it was an E Vibe. What's that magazine called? E Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the E Life cover and I was like, this was probably way before we met. I was like, yo, I would love to be a part of that. Like subconsciously in my mind, just seeing it on my timeline, and then in the new year, like through connections and through relationships, like we linked up, and then I've been a part of the whole journey since. So like,
Right.
so just seeing the stories, trying to figure it out. He'd be like, "Oh, I can't tell you that," but I'd be like, "All right, this makes sense, and this, and that, and that," and then sometimes even like while I'm watching the playback before everybody else like sees it. Just having a good grand old time, just seeing what's gonna happen next as you putting it together and coloring and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
but
I'll say one thing in final to answer your question. Well, to finally answer your question,
Right.
I think I answered it, but there was something more I wanted to say. Because this ties into Black Moses too. It's all flowing from one well stream, right? All of our creativity. Wally goes missing on Independence Night,
Okay.
right? And that's on purpose. Like Wally is a lamentation on Bahamian independence at core.
interesting.
So yeah, I think you'll see that more as the show goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of you being able to explain it yourself, you more so explain it through the art.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So
Absolutely.
if anybody want to answer to your question that I asked, then they need to go watch Where in the World is Wally?
Well, I mean, these characters, they're looking for Wally, but they were already lost in lots of ways.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
only now more lost. Everybody's lost. It's like, where is the Bahamian dream?
Right.
Like where is Wally created a space here at Shipwreck where we filmed the series.
Yeah.
He created a space that allowed for Bahamians to express themselves and be artistic and be creative and be genius. And now he's gone. And yeah, that's boy, I feel like I'm in a therapy session. that remains in subconscious ways. You don't even realize it, but that remains a central question for me. Like,
So-
what is Bahamian independence?
And then as they're looking for Wally, they're slowly but surely drifting
Absolutely.
apart. So while he is adrift,
And
they're adrift
then
too.
we released the show. And then the Death Pinch is the last episode that was put on TV.
Yeah.
And then COVID hits.
Wow. What
Stop
timing?
production.
So what was
like,
already sort of a post-Dorian project just became even more like
Yeah.
drifty,
Yeah.
because
because it
the
disappeared.
Bahamas is adrift.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
Literally
ironic. Like the
and
last episode was the
figuratively.
Death Pinch, and Wally not only disappeared, but the show disappeared.
Yeah.
Like
And
Loki.
then the country disappeared.
Yeah. I keep on saying the show is
Just that show with Clint too, Just Road. I was watching that and I was just like,
Oh man.
no, but I mean, it's Wally is clearly about the zeitgeist, the space that we're in right now. I thought it was just going to be this post-Dorian thing, but
Nah.
it's post-independence.
Right.
That's what I like to think of it.
And then, ironically enough, that you mentioned Death Pinch.
Right.
You know, the late, great Miles Monroe.
Right.
You mentioned several times that you're working towards a project.
Yeah.
If you could inform us on that, however much you want to share.
You want me to talk about the Miles Monroe project?
Please.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also with because the project is entitled Mr. Purpose.
Yes.
And that's something I always like to emphasize about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think finding our purpose is what's going to help us from not being a jerk. You know.
This pigeon is
Yeah.
freaking me out. Wow.
He trying to find his way. He don't know where in the world he is. Right now.
He's like, exactly.
We always deal with wildlife.
He's
on
a bit
set.
lost
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
This is our second wildlife episode.
Yeah, wildlife. Like 2 episodes ago, we saw a snake eating a lizard.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man, only on Erryting Kool.
Hey, I just hope he don't flip the switch.
Yeah, so Miles Monroe, yeah, man, that's a big project. That's 6 continents we're filming on right now.
Okay.
Unquestionably, the most famous Bahamian we've produced. I thought that was just my humble opinion, but then I saw somebody did a Facebook poll a few weeks ago during quarantine on the most famous Bahamian. And 95% of the comments were Miles Monroe.
That's crazy.
So
That's
I'm
the
like,
resident
okay, I
say-
guess y'all getting the memo too before the documentary, so
Yeah.
that's good. But I think a lot of people I've talked to have that story where they're in I was just talking to Ferreno. And Ferreno, I think him and Anthea were in Thailand.
Yeah.
And, you know, they didn't know what the Bahamas was, but then they mentioned Miles. And it's like, oh, yes, we know Dr. Miles Monroe. Like,
Yeah.
the first time that happened to me was when I went to LA. I was renting a car on a trip to LA from Miami. This is around college. And he saw my Bahamian driver's license. He goes, oh, the Bahamas. You mean where God lives? Do you know Dr. Miles Monroe? And I was just like, oh, yeah, sure. I'm not a big religious guy, so
Yeah.
Right.
it went over my head.
I mean, it's crazy how they refer to him as God, and we just saw him as just another man.
Right.
You know that scripture, man. You hear that
Yeah.
scripture about prophets,
Like,
right?
yeah, like that's crazy.
We could reach out and touch him, so
Yeah, it's like, you know.
Oh, that's so and so, son.
Yeah.
That's so and so, brother.
we
Yeah.
see him speak every Sunday at PFM.
You know.
Everyone else don't have that luxury.
And even his congregation had a problem with that, him being gone so much.
Right.
It's crazy. Like, you know.
But he. Anyway, so I was making back to Black Moses, man. I was making Black Moses, and we were in South Africa, and he just kept coming up. I was in South Africa to talk to Thabo and Becky, and Nelson Mandela, who couldn't do the interview at the time because he was sick. But anytime I would introduce myself as a Bahamian, he would come up. I mean, he is a rock star in South Africa. He's huge. Miles Monroe could have moved to South Africa and never come back and be like, forget y'all Bahamian.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was never going to do that because his heart was always here. But anyway, so when that happened, I told my team, we got to get him in this movie because, you know, that's going to be a good selling point. Miles Monroe, his name in the Black Moses was going to help us sell the film because this is clearly the most famous Bahamian. This was Europe, this was Africa, this was America, right? And so we did the interview and it was awesome. And impacted me to this day. But then his plane crash and
tragically.
you know that was shocking. Like
This cut right quick. We're gonna be right back and go finish.
Yeah.
Wrap up with Travolta. Right for a quick commercial break.
Cool. Everything cool.
Hi, this is your favorite zaddy, Lord Jalen Willard from Erryting Kool, and this episode is sponsored by Bahamian is a costume brand where we want all of our customers to experience an impressive level of professionalism and trust us to supply the best products that you need. All of our carnival, jungle, and samba costume services exist to make your celebration experience easier and stress-free. Currently, we are selling pillows and shirts in honor of the Bahamian Independence Day coming up on July 10th. Check us out at baharwear.com and follow us on social media at Baharwear on Instagram and Baharwear LLC on Facebook.
All right, we're back. So yeah, his death, because I remember, I was in the U.S. at the time, and like I had some church friends, and they'd be like, "Did you hear about Miles Monroe passing?" I'm like, "Yeah, like my mom was calling me. Even up until this day, I remember I was downtown recently. This was like the end of last year." And like the lady come off the boat, the cruiser, and she's like, "So where's Dr. Miles Monroe's church?" I was like, "If you head south of there, you're gonna find it." She's like, I wish we had more time to just see where he used to preach or whatever." So it's like, it's crazy, like, because you growing up, you just see Miles Monroe as just one of those other pastors,
Right?
Who, he have a private jet, he have this church. But he never around.
But you don't realize that this is Bahamian culture being exported to the world.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't see it like that. You just
Another
see
Joseph Spence.
Yeah,
Same thing.
yeah.
Like
You
it's
just see it more so, or
right.
he just doing whatever.
Right.
Not really understanding the magnitude of what they're doing in that.
Because he's not really highlighted.
Yeah, at all.
Like in common spaces, you don't see people when he was doing whatever he was doing at his peak, speaking about Miles Monroe in any kind of way. Maybe in a negative way, but almost never in a positive way. So we don't get that kind of that rhetoric, that constant rhetoric that'll program the mind. Like, okay, Miles Monroe, let's keep our eye on him when we go anywhere. Speak highly of him, just like people from everywhere else do.
Yeah.
Like Jamaicans always big up whoever from Jamaica, wherever they go. You know where they from. America, same way. As much as you want to say about them, so.
I think we just don't respect.
I don't know what's wrong with us, dude. I'm getting. I hope I get answers though.
Right.
But this is why I do these projects, because it's like. I remember I was just watching Jordan Peele talk about Get Out, and he said, or the commentator rather said, that they felt like Get Out was this bolt of light to wake people up. And I think that's cinema in general. Cinema is light, right? I think. Back to your question about why I continue to do these projects. I guess in my heart of hearts, I just would hope that it would just wake us up to who we are and the treasure that we possess. Somebody wrote in the comments after seeing Black Muslims on YouTube, they were like, thanks for documenting the story of the greatest little country in the world. And that's it.
Yeah.
If we could get that as a nation, as a people, not as individuals, but as a people, that this is the greatest little space on the globe, as Miles Monroe believed himself, then dude, I would have done my job.
Yeah. I mean, I think as all Bahamians, we just need to find a sense of pride and identity, because it's like, we can't wait until people die to start celebrating them. Like, give them their flowers while they're here.
Right.
Or whatever, And ironically, Miles' last sermon was about him trying to teach leadership and passing on the baton.
Right.
However, he's seeing a dream where a man go to his grave with the baton still in his hand. You got to pry it out. So it's like, there's a combination being, self-inflated egos and if I ain't doing it, I can't be happy for the next person. We basically cannibalizing ourselves.
Right.
Or whatever, to where, a lot of resentment stirs up. Like, the ones who could get away and don't want to look back. the ones who here just mash on each other, and people be like, "Oh, that's black crab syndrome," but it's like crabs don't try to topple each other in the wild. That's only when they're in a pen.
Right.
We had
The crab syndrome isn't just about the crab; it's about the
environment.
pen.
Yeah. So it's like, yo, we just gotta break out the pen.
That's good. That's very good.
We have to break out the pen, and the only way we can do it is realizing, okay, if this is a pen we're in, we don't have to try to. The only way to get out is not trying to go to the top, but just trying to make a way.
Right.
It's easy just like that, you know? And I think that comes with, understanding purpose, and that's what Miles was trying to do. So what's the expecting date we're thinking of when this project will be completed, as well as, when is Wally coming back?
Wally, I believe Wally comes back in September.
Okay.
That's the scheduled day right now. The Miles Monroe doc is to be announced. I'm clearly not in control.
Okay.
There's a greater. I was talking to his son about this the other day. Like, there's, Charo, Miles Monroe Jr.
Yeah.
It's like, clearly, we're not in control of this.
Yeah.
This is gonna get finished when it gets finished,
Oh, yeah.
and then it'll be ready. So y'all just need to keep follow me on Instagram or YouTube or
At
whatever,
Travolta Cooper.
Right.
and you'll get the info you need.
Yeah. Any other projects was I know it was a couple like you mentioned, the short film with Sir Sidney Poitier.
Yeah. So I put together this short film. It's called Sidney Poitier is Not a Politician. Actually, no, we changed the title. It was called Poitier Meets Pinling, right? And it's based on a conversation that Sir Lyndon and Sidney Poitier had in the 70s when he was getting ready to leave the country. And so, yeah, that's a short film we're developing. We were talking to this high-profile actor whose name I won't say. So my manager will kill me.
Right.
But you'll know his name if I said his name. He was actually going to play Pinling. And we already have the guy to play Sir Sidney. That was going to happen earlier this year, and then, COVID. Yeah, but there are all kinds of pots in the fire, man. Like, Cable was really impressed with Wally. It was their top-rated show. It beat out every channel on Monday nights. So, in the words of David Burrows of Cable, he said, it helped them figure out the trajectory for the future of the company.
Right.
The whole company is now going to be more Bahamian and Bahamian content.
Yeah.
And so
That's
they asked me
right
to
there.
pitch another show, and I did, and they liked it. And that was in pre-production, and then COVID. So,
Right.
we're in a space right now where not much can get done. But as we're coming out of this,
Yeah, you gotta just plan and then just execute when we get out.
Right.
Yeah.
When we get out the void.
Yeah. So, so it's I feel pretty blessed, man. I'm working full time as a filmmaker. What more can you ask for, right?
Right.
Yeah, you just get to wake up and create every day. But that's good. Always pushing original content, original Bahamian content,
Original people.
original people on the Original People Network.
That's right.
But but what advice you would give to the young up and coming Bahamian creators, as well as the ones that are a little bit not established yet to where they could do this full time, but trying to get there?
What advice would I give? I was almost going to be like Tarantino and say, don't go to film school, just do it. No, but I won't say that.
Don't get indoctrinated.
Dude, it's such an interesting time. Like, I talked to this one, because I got this email from this guy on Facebook who wants to, and he said, oh, I love Black Moses, you're awesome, yada, yada, yada. And then he's like, I want to be a filmmaker too, and but what I want to do is I want to merge movies with video games. and I was just like, then do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, we're in this time where
You could try it.
the lines are so blurred. Like it's
We have an example of that with Bandersnatch. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
with who?
Bandersnatch on Netflix. It's an interactive movie.
Right.
So you get to choose certain things, and depending on what you choose, a pathway opens, and then you get different- yeah.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. Well, I mean, in terms of form, and I've had these conversations at the Cannes Film Festival, as I've talked to you about it, Justin. It's like, and now post-COVID, like even theaters are becoming a bit of they're talking now about the fact that
They're gonna shut them
drive-in theaters might be the new.
down.
So
It
it's
might come
like,
back around. Like, you know.
so I mean, we're in this time where it's like, man, just produce a good story. Like,
Yeah.
don't if it's too long, like how
It has a
it's so-
space.
like how it's so concerned about Black Moses being too long and it can't be a theater. So what? So maybe it's not a theatrical release.
Yeah.
Maybe it's for Netflix. Maybe it's a docuseries.
Yeah.
Like, the sky is the limit right now in terms of form, because the lines between TV and theater and streaming are so blurred, right? But what I would say to a Bahamian filmmaker specifically, as I did this guy who wanted to merge the video game with the movie,
Right.
my thing to him was, that's awesome. I hope you make it Bahamian. I hope it's a Bahamian story. Because immediately we avert to,
What's out there?
You get what I'm
and someone
saying?
else
Like-
has
What has
already
been
done
done.
it.
like, if it's anime, it's going to be anime.
Yeah.
But yeah, couldn't you have an anime that happens in Nassau?
Right.
The characters are Bahamian. They talk like us. They look like us. Like, my advice to them would be to explore this
we
thing
have.
we call Bahamian, man.
And I think some people do a good job at doing that, you know. Like, you know, you
What
have
about that one show? That is like,
Nassau?
yeah. I've been
Like
still waiting on
they
that.
are supposed to be debuting this summer. I don't have too many details on that, but if they see it,
Sorry to
if
put you
you-
on the spot, but
Yeah.
I'm actually curious about it. Like, I think it's so cool what they're doing. You know?
yeah, I am too. But
Yeah.
if they see this, you know, if you want to come up here, we can talk about it. But yeah, it's other Bahamians, because like not just them, but it's like, you know, my other friend, Lamaro. I don't know if he want
I
me to say
heard
this.
about this dude.
Yeah, he does Kung
Man. Yeah,
like,
somebody showed me that the other
Yeah,
day.
I been, you know, I always talk to him about that, and
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
know I
yeah.
have my other friend, Chase. Like, it's so many like
That's
comic
what I'm
book
talking
artists,
about,
like they're
dude.
doing it. It's just that
That's it. That's
we
it.
are at a seedling level right
That's
now.
it,
We
right,
just
yeah.
got to keep on pushing it until
Yeah.
it grows.
Yeah.
So like, you know, as far as cinema, again, little seedling levels, like people are doing it, but it's just that the masses don't know. And then
Right.
harkening back to those who live abroad, they
Yeah.
want to work. We all know each other because
Yeah.
we all grew up with each other. Some stayed in Canada and the U.S. and some came back home. But that means we don't know each other. So
Right.
we just have to create, you know, get in the mindset to say, okay, you might want to fund them, and it's like, okay, like my old professor used to say, story in the bottle.
Listen,
Like, you know,
I could tell you in the case with Wally, if it's good work, funding is going to come.
yeah,
In the words of scripture, seek the kingdom and all these things will be added.
Right.
If you produce something that is so awesome that people can't turn away from, the money will come to you, I promise.
Yeah.
So don't let the money distract you, because everybody looking for funding. Focus on the craft, focus on the work, focus on making it the best you can, and then just pitch it and watch the funding come.
yeah, that's because that's the major thing, you know, just do the work.
And do the best work.
Yeah.
You know, do the absolute best work.
But that's great. But Travolta, I got to thank you again for coming on my
Right.
Thank you, sir.
show, my
Yeah.
podcast, my platform. You know, we're probably going to have many conversations which should be recorded after this. But
Thanks
yeah.
for having me, man. Just appreciate
this
it.
was really fun.
Yeah.
But y'all tune in next time to see what we do on Everything Cool. Peace, love. Yeah, you see.
Hey.
Also follow Travolta on everything.
And
right.
Black Moses is on YouTube. It's gonna play on cable as of next month, all July. And yeah, continue the conversation, man. Let's
Yes.
continue this conversation on Bahamian independence.
Of course. And when this comes out, it might be independence, it might be not, but happy independence.
Right.
Later.